Chairman, we're now live.
Welcome to a virtual meeting of the Major Applications Planning Committee of the London Borough of Hillingdon. This virtual meeting is also being broadcast simultaneously on the Council's YouTube channel, Hillingdon London. I'm Councillor Eddie Lavery, the Chairman of Committee and the Chairman of tonight's meeting. Before we start, can I do the usual online housekeeping? Please ensure any mobile phones around you are on silent. Please keep your microphones muted when you're not speaking and then unmute them to speak. And only one person can speak at a time, and I, as chairman, will call those to speak. If you indicate by raising your hand, I will be keeping watch on the gallery view and will call you if you've indicated. Now, can I do a quick roll call just to confirm who we've got on the meeting? Councillor Tuckwell.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'm present.
Councillor Duncan.
Present.
Councillor Hagger.
Good evening. Present.
Councillor Higgins.
Present, Chairman.
Councillor Melvin.
Present, Chairman.
Councillor Morgan.
Good evening. I'm present, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Morse.
Present, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Sansapuri. We know he was struggling. I know he may join us as this meeting goes on. I know he was having some connection issues. Can I just check the officer team for tonight, please? We've got two planning officers on tonight. Mandy Alhatra. I can see Mandy on my screens, but I can't hear her. I'm going to move on. We should also have Zainab Haj Ismail, but I understand she's
present.
got connections. Ah, thank you, Zainab. That was brilliantly timed.
Okay.
But we can't see. I can't see you at the moment on screens. Head of Planning, James Roger.
I'm here, Chairman.
Clerk, Luke Taylor.
I'm present, Chairman.
Our legal advisor, Glenn Egan.
Present, Chairman.
Highways Officer, Alan Tilley.
Present, Chairman.
Okay, in terms of technical meeting control, if any council leads the meeting partly through an item, for example, for a lost connection, and apologies to those following us tonight, we are having some connection issues. I will continue the meeting unless we're not quorum, which is 3 councillors. You obviously can't vote on an item you haven't been present for the whole of. Apart from Councillor Sansapuri, who we believe is trying to join us, I believe all members of the committee are present tonight. Can you confirm that, Luke?
I can confirm that, yes.
Declarations of interest in matters coming before tonight's meeting. Does anyone have an interest to declare? Councillor Tuckwell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to declare a non-pecuniary interest in agenda item 10 this evening, where I'll be not participating in the debate and subsequent vote.
Thank you. The minutes of the last meeting, I wasn't present for the 15th of July meeting, but unless anyone's got any corrections, can I take those as agreed? I'm getting nods, so I'm taking those. All items tonight are in the public part of the meeting. So that's items 6 to 14. There is only one petition item, and that is item 6. Okay. That's all the administration done. I'm going to move now to item 6, which is Otter House 5 High Street, Cowley. Mandit, please, can you take us through this one?
Chairman, it's James here, Head of Planning. Mandip's going to come and present from my office, as both of us are in the Civic Centre. However, she's having technical difficulties. So it may take us a minute or two to get the presentation up, if members can just bear with us, Councillor.
Okay. We will.
But, as I say, it may take a minute or two, but we should be all fine to go from my office very shortly.
Through you, Chairman.
The first item on the agenda is Otter House. Can everyone hear me?
No, I can hear you, Mandy, but I haven't got your
before I
presentation up.
keep going.
Mandy, I haven't got your presentation up.
No one can hear your presentation.
Mandip,
To turn your presentation audio back on, click here to meet.
Mandy, your mic's
Mandy.
live, but
Chairman, do you think we could
Sorry,
pause
man.
the meeting for a bit?
I think we're going to have to in a minute.
Yeah, bear with me. I will just quickly stop the recording.
I think we've got it sorted.
We're ready to present if,
So, Mandip.
Oh,
yeah.
Mandy, can we
Sorry,
put the
I've just
presentation
quickly.
up on the screen before we put it back to record for a second.
I've just quickly stopped the recording just for a second. Mandip, so what we need to get the presentation up and then present now,
Okay, I'm just going to
and
try
then
But then don't start until Luke puts us back on stream.
Sorry about this, everybody. I will.
No problem. Also, I can hardly hear Steve Tuckwell, by the way.
You're best at going anywhere I normally present.
Thanks, Henry, for that.
Because I pressed the wrong button.
That's okay. So if I keep. There we go. Right. Okay, Councillor Lavery, I'm going to attempt to share the presentation now to see if this is all working and you can hear us all. James, did you want to just take a seat next to me so that you're there when needed? Sorry about this. So I prepare a window.
Mandip, we can now see your presentation on screen. I just need Luke to put us back on the screen.
Sure. Just wanted to quickly make sure, James and Mandip, there's only one computer up there that's on, right? Just to ensure, yeah, because otherwise we get feedback. So just, yeah, if we could just use the one. And Chairman Councillor Sansapuri's just joined us. So if everyone could just remain muted just for a second, I will restart the recording, and then we can go from there. Hopefully this works. Okay, Chairman, we're ready to go if Mandip is able to just share the presentation.
Mandip, are you able to share the presentation?
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies for the delays, but item number 6, which is the first item on the agenda, is Otter House, 5 High Street, Cowley. I have 2 verbal updates, and that's due to some errors noted on the conditions. So I just wanted to set them out before I start the presentation for this item. There is also an addendum, but condition 3, the verbal updates are that part 2 should state 4 disabled parking spaces rather than a percentage. And for condition 3, part 3, it should state 8 active and 8 passive parking spaces for electric vehicle charging points. I'll now start with the application. So Otter House, 5 The High Street. Bear with me. Is located between the Grand Union Canal and Fraser River and Cowley Business Park. The application site is in a industrial business area, and you can see the residential area of Ferndale Crescent to the right of this map. The location plan identifies the site, which is outlined in red on the plan in front of you. I wanted to just clarify the position with regard to the Council's Article 4 directions. Now, an Article 4 direction removes the permitted development rights, and we have an Article 4 in place which seeks to remove the permitted development rights to change from an office to a residential development in certain areas. Those areas are shown on the map on the right-hand side, so Article 4, B1B, office protection. The map on the left is the Article 4 direction, which shows where the industrial protection is. So any existing buildings with industrial use are not permitted to change to residential developments. Now, the application site is an office as existing, but falls within the Article 4 area that protects the industrial lands. So that's the site there. So the application site does not benefit from protection from an office to residential conversion. I just wanted to clarify that position because there is some confusion about whether the site is or isn't in an Article 4. I can confirm that the site is in an Article 4, but the protection is only afforded if the existing use of the building is for industrial uses. Now, the application site, Otter House, is a B1 office building. Therefore, the applicants have applied for a prior approval application for the change of the use of the offices to residential to create 31 flats. Now, the general permitted development order, which is the criteria against which we will assess the prior approval application, only permits the local planning authority to take the following factors into account in consideration of the proposals. And those are transport and highways matters, contamination risks, flooding risks, the impact on noise from commercial premises on the intended occupiers of the development, and also a more general requirement to take into account the national planning policy framework so far as it may be relevant. Now, the application report does identify and clearly sets out that there are no objections with regard to transport and highways, contamination, flooding, and impacts of noise. We have received significant objections on the application site. However, the application has been recommended for approval because it does not meet any of the, or it does not fail to meet any of the GPDO criteria. The prior approval application for change of use under Class O is therefore recommended for approval. We have recommended conditions on the application, and they are set out within the officer report, as well as the addendum and the verbal updates that I offered you earlier. The application has been assessed, and subject to the relevant conditions, prior approval is required and granted. I will hand back to Councillor Lavery and stop sharing the presentation.
Thank you, Bandit. Luke, we have a petition on this one. Have you got a statement from the petitioners?
Chairman, we did have a petition. We haven't received any written representations from either the petitioner or the agent and applicant.
Or any ward councillors?
Or any ward councillors, for that matter, no.
In which case we can move straight to debate. Obviously, bearing in mind, please, this is a prior approval, so you may have views on whether you like bits of this or not. And obviously, there's quite a bit from the objectors in the report, but regrettably, most of that is outside what we can consider. I'll start with Councillor Higgins, followed by Councillor Morse, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, that's the problem, is that we can't really say much. So I could say a lot, but it would be probably a waste of time, so I'm not going to waste anybody's time. So I'll just go with officer's recommendation on this one.
Thank you, Councillor Higgins. Councillor Morse.
There's a number of points, Mr. Chairman. I was a bit surprised when I read the Article 8 was based upon B1 bracket C and not B1 bracket A, but I won't comment any more on that. I then look at condition 9, because whether you like it or not, this is in a flood control area. I fail to understand, we don't have any statements on runoff rates. We have no statements required for the drainage calculation, and with no exceedance routes. And I also fail to understand how this condition 9 overrules the policy DMEI 19. It's unfortunate that we haven't got any statement, because the other aspects of this, which they touch upon, there are people that are raising an objection, is effect on wildlife in the Fraser River. Now, I have no expertise to look at that, but it's a point I would like to. So I have to be blunt. I'll put it in quickly because I know it's difficult in these circumstances. I am minded to a site visit because there's another factor I want to bring up. This site is surrounded by classified zones, flood zone 3, so east and west. There's no such thing as flood zone 3. It's either 3A or 3B. So I'd like to know if it's which level of 3B being the more severe. But there's a number of issues I'm a bit uncomfortable with, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mandy, can you just comment on the flooding issue? In other words, which flood zone are we in?
The application site is in flood zone 1, so the canal and Fraser River fall into higher flood zones, but nothing within the application site itself falls within flood zone 3A or B. With regard to the second point of deferral, if the council fail to make a decision, the application is given deemed consent. Therefore, it's deemed to be granted. So we must make a decision on the application, or we won't have any of the conditions that we've currently imposed able to be applied to a deemed consent. So I would proceed with not recommending a deferral for a site visit.
Thank you, Amanda. Councillor, I think that's answered your point. You may not like the answer, but I think it has answered your point. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Again, I think our hands are tied on this, but it's just a general question to the officers. Is there anything to stop a building change of use from industrial to office, or vice versa, to get around our constraints?
Not entirely relevant, but I'll allow it. Mandit, briefly.
Sorry, I'm not entirely sure I understood the question. I
think the council was asking, if it's industrial, could you go industrial then to office and then get around the Article 4? It's a little bit of a sideways question, but if you don't know the exact answer, it isn't entirely relevant to this application. So I will move on.
There are permitted development rights, and I would have to check the order for exactly what they are. Some of them are restricted by size, so I can't give you the exact answer.
Okay. Right, we'll give up on that one. Councillor Duncan, and then I want to move this one on because there's nothing much we can do with it. Councillor Duncan.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, like all other councillors, I suppose we're faced with these prior approvals. There's very little we can do. I do have sympathy with residents in the areas. I'm sure we all do, and about a lot of the points they make about it. But our hands are very much tied on this. It meets all the requirements that it needs to meet. So I would second the officer's recommendation on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duncan. I'm going to now move to the vote because, as everyone has said, we may all have our views on this, and they may well be sympathetic to residents in what they've said, but our hands are very much tied. So in which case, can I just proceed to the vote, please? All those votes, we're voting to accept the officer recommendation and the conditions as per the addendum and the verbal changes Mandip has made. Councillor Tuckwell? Councillor Tuckwell? I think we've lost the
Sorry,
verbal.
Councillor Tuckwell, we can't. No, we don't seem to be able to hear you there.
We were faint. The Civic Centre is not doing well tonight.
Can he put his thumb up if he can't?
Yeah, I have a thumb up from Councillor Tuckwell. Is that acceptable, Glenn? Yeah. Okay, I'm getting a nod from the right. So Councillor Tuck was in favour. Councillor Duncan seconded, so in favour. Councillor Hagger.
For, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Higgins proposed. Councillor Melvin.
For, Chairman.
Councillor Morgan.
For.
Councillor Morse.
Abstaining, Chairman. I'm not satisfied it complies with policy DME 19.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Santapuri. Councillor Santapuri, can you hear me?
Councillor Santapuri, you're on mute there, I think.
I have a thumbs up.
We've got a thumbs up again.
Okay.
Okay with
so we've 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 voting for and 1 abstaining. So that one is approved. I'm going to move on to item 6, which is item 7, which is Meadow High School. Mandy, it's yours again.
Thank you, Chairman. Agenda item 7 is Meadow High School. The application site is identified in red, so you can identify Benson Close to the north and the main road to the right-hand side, Royal Lane, apologies. The constraints map identifies whilst the application site is not within the greenbelt, the land directly adjoining the site is within the greenbelt, does have a greenbelt designation, apologies. If I take you through the application, it seeks the demolition of the existing buildings and replacement with a new 2-storey building, sports hall, multi-use games court, hard play areas, substation, and revised vehicular access and pupil drop-off and parking. Now I'll go through the plan to identify exactly which parts of the building are being demolished because it's not the entire school, and which bits are being replaced. The application demolition plan identifies the buildings which are being replaced in red. And I will take you through the rest of the plan. So these are the existing floor plans for the application site. And this is the site master plan. So the extensions can be seen just here. I will take you back through. So if you look at the existing buildings in this part of the site, they are fairly small scale. So this is the demolition and extension. And then the other parts of the work are the new sports hall in this location and small areas of connections to give a better through flow through the application site. This is the proposed ground floor plan. And this is the sports hall extension ground floor plan. Proposed first floor plan. The application site elevations. So the sports hall extension comprises very limited external alterations. There are no window openings in the small extension, but the new built building does have a condition requiring significantly more details, and that's with regard to weatherproofing and the window detailing, as well as the external materials. These are the proposed buildings, so you can see the change in slight design. Again, further elevation drawings of the new school hall building. There is also some featured brick glazing details which are identified in blue on the top of this plan. These are some of the indicative 3D visuals and external views of the application site. A hard landscaping plan, you can identify the new pitch that's being provided and circular cycling track. And this is the landscaping arrangement and a tree planting plan. I'd just like to identify that there's been some confusion through the course of the application whereby some trees in this area have been removed during the course of the application. They are proposed to be replanted. There was an element of confusion because the plan submitted with the application showed them to be retained. However, following investigation, they are being replanted. There are confusing objections in that respect from some of the residents, but we did try and investigate and resolve that point. This is the tree protection plan, which seeks to show where the trees will be protected. There's also a reconfiguration of this car parking area as part of this planning application. This is a bird's eye view of the site, some photographs. Front elevation from Royal Lane. the existing site. And we have had some objections from local residents. This again is Royal Lane, but we will soon get some photographs of Clark's Drive. Now, Clark's Drive abuts the site to the south, and whilst you can see that there is some visibility in this image to the school site, there is an element of trees already as existing, and there are more to be planted to provide greater separation. One of the key important things with this application is that there is no increase in pupil numbers or in staff numbers. So in that respect, there is not anticipated to be any increase in noise movements by virtue of car vehicles and pedestrians coming to and from the site. And for that reason, we have not sought to heavily mitigate any harm, because we don't consider there could be any harm from things like increased noise, albeit residents have raised concerns about the potential for increased noise as a result of the works. We do have to be fair in the way that we apply our conditions. So this is the rearmost part of the application site. The application is recommended for approval. We have addressed the majority of the concerns raised from local residents within their committee report, and we are recommending approval subject to condition and legal agreement as set out in agenda item 7 on page 29 of your committee report. I will stop sharing the presentation and hand back to Councillor Lavery.
I'd also draw members' attention to the substantial addendum on this item. So please bear that in mind. There are no petitioners. Who wants to start me off? Councillor Tuckwell.
Can you hear me now, Chairman?
We can.
It's always good to have a backup. Okay. I think a lot of the points I had were in relation to screening at Clark's Drive, so they've been addressed. I do remember this application for the temporary structure. It wasn't that long ago, actually, and there was a number of concerns around access through Peel Way and Benson Close, but I think they're covered off in condition 11. Is that right, Mandip? It's in condition 15.
Yes, but we've asked for a full construction management plan, so that will cover those concerns.
The only other point I had, which is quite a minor point really, is in relation to condition 24, where it says the track not being used for motorised bikes. Would that include these new electric scooters, which do go at some rate of knots? Anything we can do to maybe add that as a protection for that particular track?
Mandip, can you comment, please?
For the avoidance of doubt, we can add it in case enforcement have any problems. So that was motorised
electric scooters.
Yeah, we're seeing more and more of them on our streets now, aren't we, and pavements?
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor Morgan, you indicated. Councillor Higgins has also indicated. That's all I've got at the minute.
Councillor Morgan's indicating he's a
Higgins, and then Councillor Morse.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, are we sure this is for cycles and not a running track? It looks more like a running track to me than cycle track, or is it just that they can use cycles on it as well?
I think they can use cycles on it as well. Is what I understand. Is that true, Mandip? And we just want to make sure it doesn't become used for motorised bikes, because that would be noisy.
Yes, that's right. It offers both facilities.
Okay.
Which is, well, I thought that would have damaged the track, but anyway, my knowledge of tracks maybe not gone to the past. On that note, I will go with officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Morse. You wanted to comment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I think this is a thoroughly desired development. This school has been a bit of bits and pieces locations in terms of what's on the site, and I'm quite happy to second it. And also make note of the water condition. The water management condition is good.
Thank you, Councillor Morse. Unless anyone's got any, Councillor Duncan, and then I'll move this forward. Councillor Duncan.
Yes, thank you. What would be the hours for community use of these facilities, which I know is mooted and which was a point raised by the Clark's Drive Management Committee?
Mandip?
Now, the community use agreement has not been approved yet. It's subject to a condition to be discharged at a later date. However, the addendum does specify hours for switching off the lights of the building, and I would anticipate that it could not be any later than those hours. I'm really sorry, I've lost my addendum, so I can't even tell you what those hours are.
Councillor, I would also, there is no floodlighting on this site. So in terms of external use of the facilities and noise, they're going to be limited by daylight as well as anything else.
Yes, well, that's yes, I would welcome that. I mean, we do want to make maximum use of it, but we do want to safeguard existing residents' privacy and enjoyment of their own homes.
Yeah, and I think probably condition does that in essence. And there's no, and given the number of facilities here, it's unlikely that there'll be a great demand.
Yeah, and we are beefing up the landscaping along that whole boundary with the Clark's Meadow properties, aren't we? So that they will have screening from that.
That was in the officer presentation, yeah.
Yes, yeah. I know they're a bit concerned about the hard play area immediately between the new block and the properties as well. But hopefully screening will help with that. Yes, I'm happy if those things are covered.
Okay, thank you. In which case I am proposed and seconded. I'm seeing no other hands, and I think members are generally comfortable with this one. So if I can just do a vote, please. Councillor Tuckwell?
Yeah, go with officer's recommendation.
Councillor Duncan?
For.
Councillor Hagger?
For, Chair.
Councillor Higgins proposed. Councillor Melvin?
Yes, for, Chairman.
Councillor Morgan?
For.
Councillor Moore seconded. Councillor Sansapuri? Councillor Sansapuri?
I think Councillor Sansapuri's feed seems to have frozen.
It does. Okay. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 members voting in favour, which takes it through anyway. And Councillor Sansapuri, we can't get hold of by the look of it.
Yes, that's correct. That's what I have to.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to move on.
Chairman, could I just quickly remind some of the for some of our YouTube viewers, it's getting a bit dark in some of the rooms, so if people could just try and ensure that they've got adequate lighting, so when they're speaking, they can be heard. That would be great. They could be seen as well. Sorry.
I'm now going to move to item 8, which is land to the east of Newport Road.
Thank you, Chair.
Zainab presenting.
Yes.
Zainab, can we check you can actually do a presentation? Because
yes, that should be
I can't
fine.
see you at the moment. I can hear you but not see you.
Okay, this should be presenting.
No. We've nothing on the screen. Mandip, are you able to do the presentation?
I don't know if Mandip's heard that.
Well, hopefully. Mandip?
Zainab, I did not hear that. Are you okay?
No, we're not.
The presentations, yeah.
We can't see, which has been a problem all evening for her. So we can hear her, but we can't see her. So we can't see her attempt to share a presentation.
Oh, of course. Okay, that's fine. I will share the presentation. Zainab, would you like me to take over? All right, you can just say next slide if you want to.
If you could, yeah, that'd be great. So if you could just present and I will talk, right?
Thank you.
So thank you. Item 8 relates to land to the east of Newport Road in Hayes. If you could draw next slide, please. So the application site is shown in red here, and it's situated on the right, on the left hand, on the east side of Newport Road and to the north of Uxbridge Road. Mandip, can you get the next slide, please? As you can see from this slide, there are no site constraints on this application site. So this is the site location plan. Can we get the next slide? This is the existing site plan. So it comprises of an office and commercial uses. Can I get the next And this is a slide of the existing floor plan. So the application is seeking planning permission for the redevelopment of the site to provide a 4-story building and 24 flats. And it also includes some landscaping works. So the landscaping is situated to the north of the proposed building. And this application follows a previously refused scheme, which was of a slightly larger scale. The application that was previously refused is currently being considered at appeal. The revised proposal reduces the footprint and the scale of the building and is considered to be of an appropriate height. The design of this scheme overcomes previous reasons for refusal. So the proposal would not result in harm to amenity of neighbouring residents, and overall it provides an acceptable quality of units for future occupants. The application provides 1 car parking space for each unit, and there are 2 affordable housing provided. So if you could just stop at this slide, I want to draw members' attention to the difference between the previously refused scheme and the application. So if you have a look at the scheme on top that Mandip is pointing to, this is the previously refused scheme, and it's the 3rd floor, which you can see is quite, it raises the parapet and it looks excessively bulky. You'll also see that the eastern side closest to 1200 Uxbridge Road is flush, whereas in this new scheme it's set back. These setbacks make a considerable difference, and this application is being recommended for approval. If I just go to the next slide, the difference will be made more apparent. So the first scheme that is shown is the previously refused scheme. You can see it was a bland flank wall that would be highly visible from 1200 from Uxbridge Road as you turn into Newport Road, whereas the application has been revised, so there is a setback at the upper levels and this flank wall has been articulated. There is an addendum which clarifies some of the conditions, but one of the conditions on this, one of the clarifications is also that the southern elevation includes these windows that are going to be obscurely glazed, so it does not prejudice 1200 Uxbridge Road in the future. So subject to the amendment and the conditions and the 106 agreement within the report, it's recommended for approval. I'm happy to take any questions members may have on this item. Thank you.
Mandip, can you switch the presentation off for me? Okay, who wants to start this one off? Sorry, Councillor Duncan, and then Councillor Tuckwell.
Well, I welcome this. I think that it's a good redevelopment, and I would like to move officers' recommendation. I think particularly the amendments that have been secured by officers improve it from the one that is currently under appeal. So I would like to go with officers' recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Duncan. Councillor Tuckwell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we've been to Newport Road a couple of times on this committee, and I echo the sentiment. It is an improvement. It is a shame we've got no family units, but it's in a town centre, and it is slightly short on amenity space, but not a great deal. And I'm happy to second officer's recommendation.
Okay, I've got nobody else indicating. Therefore, I will move to the vote on this one. So we're voting to approve officer recommendations. Councillor Tuckwell, you seconded. Councillor Duncan, you proposed. Councillor Hagger?
Yes, for, Chair.
Councillor Higgins?
For, Chairman.
Councillor Melvin?
Yes, I'm for, Chairman.
Councillor Morgan?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Morse?
For, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Sansapuri? Can you do a thumbs up, Councillor Sansapuri? If you can't, I can't hear you.
It's possible that the screen might have also frozen. Oh, there's a thumbs up. There's a thumbs up. I can acknowledge that. So that's a vote for.
All members voting in favour, and that one is approved. Agreed, Luke?
Agreed. Yep, I have the unanimous
I move to agenda item 9, Douglas Webb House, 546 Sipson Road, Sipson. I think we're doing the same presentation again. Mandy has put it up. Thank you, Zenab. You're taking us through this one.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So item 9 relates to Douglas Webb House on Sipson Road. This is a site that was formerly occupied by the Metropolitan Police Section House. It's situated on the southern side of, it's a triangular plot located on the southern side of Sipson Road and west of the M4 spur motorway. So you can see from the constraints plan there are no constraints. If you stop at the existing buildings, please. Thank you. So this is the existing site plan. Access is taken through Sipson Way. If we go to the next slide, please. So at the moment, the application, this application site comprises of 3 connected blocks arranged around a central courtyard, and the buildings currently vary in size from a single story to 3 stories. If we can move on to the proposed plans, please. The application is seeking planning permission for the redevelopment of the site, which includes the demolition of existing buildings and the erection of a new building ranging from 1 to 6 stories and a basement to provide a 302 bedroom hotel with ancillary facilities, which include a restaurant, car parking, coach parking, hard and soft landscaping and associated works. There is no objection in principle to the proposed hotel. The design responds to 2 contexts. So, Mandy, if you can just show the context, you'll see that to the west of the site are residential dwellings, and then to the, so there are 2 contexts on either side of this site, and this site sits between a very residential area and a very commercial area, or the context of Heathrow. So what the application has sought to do is respond to the residential context by having a much reduced scale of building along the western elevation, and then along where it does face onto the M4 spur, it is a 6-story building above ground. The application overcomes previous issues raised by the inspector. So there was a previous application for a 275 bedroom hotel, which, if we go on to the next slide, please, and the next slide. If you stop at the 2 slides before, that one, yes. So this slide shows the difference. Previously, well, you can see the red line outlines the existing footprint of the building. So the applicant has sought to stay within the confines of the existing building. So there is no greater impact on the amenity of the neighbouring residents. Previously, there was a significant bulk on just to the sort of northwest, no further to the northwest. And this has been scaled back by 16 and 29 meters. The application overcomes the inspector's reasons for dismissing the appeal, and for the reasons set out in the officer's report, this application is recommended for approval because it would not harm neighbouring amenity. We have received relevant reports that confirm that there would not be any overshadowing or daylight or sunlight impact on the neighbouring residents. So, subject to recommended conditions and planning obligations, the application is considered acceptable. There is an addendum for this item, which makes note of the additional letter of objection received in relation to highways matters, and we also received highway officer's response to that, that the access is considered acceptable. So, that concludes this presentation. I'm happy to take any questions members may have. Thank you, Chair.
Mandip, can you just move back for me? Thank you. As Zainab said in her presentation, we are constrained on this one. The appeal decision is referenced on page 153 of the report in your bundle, and the narrow grounds upon which the inspector supported or dismissed the appeal, but obviously steps have now been taken to rectify those. So we'll start from there. Councillor Duncan, please. Becky, I've seen you as well.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the main concern I had was that you're putting a 6-storey building just south of 2-storey residential, and the effect this would have in terms of sunlight and daylight and amenity. But if, as Zainab has said, there is no adverse effect, then I'm happy with that. What it would do, because it's a high block, all the shadow will be thrown northwards, which is towards the housing and the rear gardens. But will they still have sufficient sunlight in their gardens and daylight to enjoy it as a residential dwelling house? I just wanted that point confirmed, please.
Zainab, please.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. So the 6-storey building is situated at least 59 metres away from the residential dwellings. The daylight and sunlight report does not only assess the windows, but it also assesses the impact on the gardens, and both have been found to be acceptable. One benefit this does deliver by having that building along where it is it will reduce the noise that's currently emitted to residents living in that block. So that is a benefit that this, although it's high, it will deliver that benefit to the residents. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, I appreciate that it is a good noise barrier. It's just that we don't want it to block out sunlight. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Councillor Hagger, you indicated?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm quite happy with this to go through for approval. My only concern, but I see we've actually got it under one of the conditions, is the lighting. So the actual illumination of any signs. And I think we've had this before where they can be extremely bright and up there for 24 hours. But I see, and just correct me, I do see on page 183, it does say that we've got that in either way of a condition. So can you just confirm that?
What, external lighting?
Yeah.
External lighting. Yeah, no external lighting. Has got to come in for approval. So yeah, we've got control of external lighting.
Brilliant. That was my only concern. So I'm quite happy to support officer recommendations. Thank you, Claire.
Councillor Morgan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I was looking at the photographs, and photograph 1586, which shows the entrance to the site, and it looks like there's only one entrance to the site, and it's down the side of one of the residential houses. Now, originally it was up for 275 bedroom hotel. Now we're looking at a 302 bedroom hotel. Have we got enough information on noise level for that resident who lives literally on top of that entrance? If you look at photograph 1586, I think that shows it quite clearly that they are literally down the side of their house.
If I may respond, Chair.
Yes, Sarah, please do.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. That is something that we have considered, and I did pick up as an issue, and I share. I can appreciate why there are concerns about the noise levels, particularly past that resident. But in terms of the difference between this application and the previously refuse scheme that was subsequently dismissed at appeal, it had a lot more ancillary facilities. So this application, the reason why there is an increase in number of bedrooms is because they've got rid of, or there is less ancillary facilities, so larger sort of conference type facilities that was previously proposed at ground floor level. And instead of those other facilities, they've provided bedrooms. I think in terms, previously there would have been possibly more comings and goings, and the inspector accepted this. So again, we are limited by the previous inspector's decision, but notwithstanding that, we have received an acoustic report. We do have a noise report which has been considered, and that demonstrates that the proposal won't result in unacceptable noise. We do have noise conditions as well, but perhaps if it would be helpful and you would like there to be a acoustic barrier or acoustic fencing along with that neighbour, that's certainly something that can be added to the landscaping condition, if that would give councillors more comfort in approving this, in that sort of proximity to the neighbour there. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Zainab. Can I just have a quick take from other councillors? Do they want that condition amended? Yes.
Yes,
No.
yes, please. Yes.
Yes, yes, no. I think I've got a consensus on yes. Okay. Okay, Councillor Morgan, do you want to come back?
Thank you very much. Yes, I think it would be great to have some acoustics on there, acoustic fencing. If we also got a condition for restriction on delivery times of the heavy goods vehicles for the restaurant, cleaning facilities, and that sort of thing, because again, the last thing you want is a heavy goods vehicle going down
Delivery and
2 o'clock in the morning.
plan, condition 19 might help you. Condition 19, restrict servicing till 8 till 6 Monday to Friday, 10 till 1 Saturday and Sunday. Thank you. I think that's that one done. Unless Councillor Higgins, no, that is that one done. Councillor Hagger, I think, was in favour and looked like she was happy to propose. So I'm taking that. Can I have a second?
Sorry, Councillor Levis. Higgins is.
I'm happy to second that. Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Sorry.
Right. Councillor Higgins, did you want to come in?
Yes, thank you. Can we make sure that it's all well and good putting acoustics, but whether the actual resident requires that, because that fence in itself can then cause them lack of light as well, and you get shadowing in their garden. So let's not be to jump the gun here, and make sure that the resident in question is asked before we say that that's what we want.
Is that possible, James? Are we, or is that a bit too?
Can I? So, in terms of maybe something that might help is, I believe the fence is 1.8 meters in height currently. It would be the same height, so it wouldn't have an adverse impact on the levels of light received. What it would do is just make sure that it was more robust, so when there were vehicles driving in and out of sight, the noise impact would be much reduced.
I'd like to just mention that at the previous appeal, the owner of this property did attend the appeal to give evidence about what they felt were potential harm to their property. So I don't think they would object to an acoustic fence as long as it's the same height.
Thank you, Bandit. That's very helpful. On that basis, can I have a seconder, please?
I'm happy to second that, Chairman.
Melvin, I will go to Councillor Morgan as well, but I will go. So we're voting to approve officer recommendations to approve the application. Councillor Tuckwell.
For, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Duncan.
For.
Councillor Haggard proposed. Councillor Higgins.
For, Chairman.
Councillor Melvin seconded. Councillor Morgan.
For, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Morse.
For, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Sansapuri. I think I've lost Councillor Sansapuri on my screen. Have we still got him, Luke?
We have him on screen. He's on mute at the moment, but there's no visual, so I'm not sure whether his connection is working.
He says he can see and hear us all. He sent me a text to
But
say
I can't see or hear him.
No, that's the trouble.
We've now lost him. He has left the meeting now, so
Okay.
he'll probably try
In
and.
which case, I've got 1, 2, 3. I've got 7 for. We can't get a vote from Councillor Santopuri, so that one's approved. Do you agree, Luke?
I agree. Yes.
Thank you. I'm going to move to item 10, which is Queensmead High School. Councillor Tuckwell is going to sit this one out. Mandy, I think this is your one.
Thank you, Councillor Lavery. Agenda item number 10 is Queensmead School. There we go. There's the application site. I just wanted to point out that there is the building in question that we're currently going to consider is a part of this Brown locally listed building. If I take you through the application, it proposes the demolition of Block B, which includes a basement plant room, adjacent canopies and a water tower, and the erection of a new 194 square metre 2-storey school building. The proposal for the new 2-storey building comprises of 18 classrooms and associated facilities. The existing basement plant room would be filled in following the consent of a new standalone plant room. So the application site is widely following this red line. Block B is centrally located and access is from this point here. These are the existing floor plans and the existing roof plans showing Block B within its context of Blocks D and M. And as I did mention, this is a locally listed building. We have over a number of years sought to try and preserve the building to see if there was any way in which it could be renovated, as it is locally listed, but it is part of a local listing which comprises a combination of buildings around the school site. Even the conservation team agree that the life of this locally listed building has come to a point where it has no longevity in terms of repairs, and therefore the conservation officers are not averse to the demolition of this building, albeit it is locally listed. We have also consulted the Conservation Society that sought its initial local listing, and we have not received any comments in response to the application. This is the site plan for the proposal. So you can see in faint red outline the existing block and the water tower associated, and then in the blue you can see the new facility for the school. As I said, the existing Block B is in very poor working order, and it's the DFE and the school who have led the project in order to get the application forward as a new proposal. These are the general arrangements for the floor plans for the ground and the first floor plan. Proposed roof plan, there is an entrance canopy proposed and the walkway outside of the site, proposed elevations and then site sections. There is an outline of the changing places provision on the site, and I'll take you through a few of the site photographs, which does seek to highlight the condition of the existing building, and also to identify that we haven't taken lightly the loss of the locally listed building, but we do want educational facilities which are fit for purpose for future generations, hence the reason that we are supporting the application for its demolition and the rebuild. The development, however, would not increase the number of pupils across the site. Therefore, it's not deemed, pupils or teachers, sorry, it's not deemed that there would be a local highway impact in terms of the proposed development. The proposal has been supported by a transport assessment where mitigation measures to reduce its impact on the local highway network during the construction phase have been incorporated. The application is recommended for approval subject to the conditions and a legal agreement which is set out in the officer report. And there is also an addendum on this item, which I draw your attention to, which is limited in terms of its content. I will pass back to Councillor, bear with me while I'll pass over to James.
Thank you, Mandy. Just a quick extra point. This building was locally listed some time ago, and some of the architectural features mentioned in the listing are no longer present on the building because it's required a number of repairs over the years. So I think members should also be aware of that as well, and clearly that's a factor in the council's conservation officers' views and the reason why they aren't objecting to the proposals. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Mandip. A relatively straightforward school proposal, I would suggest. Who wants to start? It's going to have Councillor Higgins, Councillor Morgan, then Councillor Morse.
Thank you, Chairman. Overall, I don't really have an objection. I mean, I feel a bit sad that we've lost the listed building, and I do feel sad that there is nowhere that they've replaced it with something which is just a box, really, which is really even more sad. So there's lack of imagination there. But that's what we get these days, and I will go with officer's recommendation and propose this.
Thank you, Councillor Higgins. Councillor Morse. Councillor Morgan, then Councillor Morse.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I think Councillor Higgins has said everything that I was going to say on this. It's always sad to lose a listed building, but you know, we can see exactly why it has ended. It has reached its end of life. And I'll second the officer's recommendations.
Okay, Councillor Morse.
I can't add much other than to say that the building is functional. What was there previously was elegant, but I'm afraid to say you have to give the priority of the school's management what they want. I think it's a totally acceptable proposition. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, on that basis, I'm going to move to the vote. Councillor Luke, can you just confirm Councillor Sansapuri wasn't in the whole of this one, was he?
He wasn't. I think he's joined halfway through.
Right. So I'm going to take him out. Councillor Tuckwell is not voting because you declared an interest. So I will start with Councillor Duncan. Councillor Hagger.
For, Chair.
Councillor Higgins proposed. Councillor Melvin.
For him.
For. Councillor Morgan seconded. Councillor Morse.
Yeah.
Councillor Morse?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seconded.
1, 2, 3.
So,
I've got six in favour, nobody against, and that one's approved. Yes, Luke?
I can confirm that, yes.
Right. I now move to the Dice site, St Andrews Park, Hillingdon Road, Uxbridge. And this is a change to something that is already consented. So, Mandip, you take us through, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Item 11 is the Dice at St Andrews Park. This relates to the land outlined in red, part of which now encroaches into the new park that has been delivered. But that's just, when I say that, that's part of the bigger phase that's already being incorporated. If I take you through the plans, you'll see that we've already granted consent for 7 blocks, which are known or otherwise referred to as the Dice development within the St Andrews Park site. The application proposes to add 5 additional units by reconfiguring some of the internal layouts. Now, some of you may say, well, didn't we spot that there was space for additional 5 units at application stage? Now, the reason that we have the additional space is because the basement has been made slightly larger. So some of those back-of-house and plant facilities have been moved into the basement level. That has allowed for the addition of 5 additional units within the Dice development itself. Now, taking into account that the Dice was approved as a major application and liable to affordable housing, we have taken this application and considered it as 5 additional units over and above those that we granted consent for under the St Andrews development, which was over 1,000 units. On that basis, the application was liable to affordable housing, and we have therefore sought to secure some affordable housing on site. However, because the application in this particular phase of the development didn't propose any affordable housing, most of it was proposed, if I take you back a step, within this triangle development and across other phases within St Andrews Park. It was extremely difficult to try and secure on-site affordable housing where there were only going to be 1 or 2 units secured. For that reason, we've sought to secure an off-site affordable housing contribution, which has been assessed by an independent viability appraiser, so a surveyor, who's deemed that a contribution of £174,000 or there and thereabouts is acceptable as an off-site contribution. That will obviously be pooled and spent on a site elsewhere in Borough. Accordingly, the application has been deemed to be acceptable, subject to the conditions outlined in the officer report and also the planning obligations, which include the off-site affordable housing contribution and a restriction for future residents not to obtain parking permits within the site. The application does, however, allocate some parking spaces to those new residents. So whilst they are restricted from applying for a permit, they do have a space within the development. We are accordingly recommending approval for this application. I would draw councillors' attention to the fact that there is an addendum on this item, which is fairly short and concise. The site photos on screen at the moment show the current development, which is coming out of the ground and not yet complete. The building that you can see in the distance on this photo is the triangle phase that I mentioned earlier. The application is recommended for approval. I will pass back to Councillor Lavery.
Who wants to start off? Councillor Higgins and Councillor Duncan.
I don't have a problem with this in principle for the development, but I do have a problem with this figure that they seem to pluck out the air. You couldn't buy it. You couldn't even build anything for that, or buy a place for that 140,000. Surely, as the authority, we can determine what we should be charging for that.
Amanda?
As an authority, we have chosen to go to a third party who can independently assess what the off-site contribution should be, and it is akin to other off-site contributions we've sought on other sites. So I think we have to trust in the judgment of the independent valuer, because that isn't an expertise that we hold in the planning department per se. So we've gone to someone independent.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that do we have to accept that, or can we say we want one of those flats to be for affordable housing, one of those places for affordable housing? I mean, if this application was to go forward, how many units on there would be affordable housing?
So just to clarify, none of the units within any of the DICE development will be affordable housing.
No, I know that, Mandy. I'm just trying to say, let's just forget that it was the DICE. Just say that if it was a new development and someone came with that development, how much of that would be broken down into affordable housing?
In order to be policy compliant, that would need to be 35%. So we're looking at circa 1.5 or maybe 2 units out of the 5 additional units that are proposed on the site. Now, it's very unlikely that a registered provider would want to own and take care of 2 units within such a large block because of the maintenance costs. Hence the reason that it's very difficult to secure on-site affordable housing in a development like this. But I do appreciate that it's unfortunate that we're not securing more on-site affordable housing.
Yeah, well, I just think it's very disappointing that we sort of that we can't do it ourselves. And I think two units for key workers or something like that would be quite acceptable for us to manage ourselves. But as you said, that's what it is. So I'm not sure about this actually, so I'm not going to propose it. I'll let someone else do that.
Okay, Councillor Duncan.
Well, I do have every sympathy with Henry's point, actually, but this is an approved block. It's giving 5 more units. It is giving some money that we didn't have before to go into the pot for affordable housing. So I will move officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duncan. I see no other hands on this one. Oh, Councillor Tuckwell.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a small change to an existing significant development, and I'm happy to second officer's recommendation.
Okay, I'm seeing no other hands, and on that basis, I'm going to move to the vote. So those 4 officer recommendations. So Councillor Tuckwell seconded, Councillor Duncan proposed, Councillor Hagger.
For, Chair.
Councillor Higgins.
Sustain.
Councillor Melvin.
I'm for that, Chairman.
Councillor Morgan.
For, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Morse.
For, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Sansapuri. Can you do me a thumbs up? If you can't, I can't get you verbally.
I think the feed may have frozen again, Chairman, I'm afraid.
I'm going to have to take that one out. So I've got 1, 2, 3. I've got 6 votes in favour, 1 abstention, and we can't get Councillor Sansapuri on that basis. That one's approved. Do you agree, Luke?
That's exactly the same I have. Yes, thank you.
Can I move, please, to item 12, which is Phrase Court 71 to 73, Cowley Road. Amanda, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Item 12 is Phrase Court. Now, Item 12 is a minor development, so it is on the Major Applications Planning Committee because the prior approval to change the office building to residential was presented to the Major Applications Planning Committee fairly recently, and for that reason we've chosen to let you know about the additions to the site and for continuity. So the application site is outlined in red on your screens. There are limited constraints on the site, although there is an element of surface water drainage, which is a concern in this area on County Mill Road. I take you through to show you the existing site plan. There is a sub-level of basement car parking, but vehicular access is via County Mill Road here. This is the existing lower ground floor, which is the basement car parking and cycle parking for the site. The existing ground floor is offices, and that has already been granted consent for prior approval from office to residential. The first and second floors are in a similar position whereby they already have consent from office to residential. Although they're not shown on these plans, that is under a separate permission that we've already issued. These are the existing front and side elevations, so you can see that the building comprises of a pitch roof with a number of dormer windows at roof level. These are the existing rear and side elevations. The proposed lower ground floor will retain its car parking provision. There will be additional disabled bays included, as well as formal cycle stores and bin stores. The proposed ground floor, again, as I mentioned, this is the layout of the prior approval office to residential, which doesn't form part of this application. This is the proposed third floor. Now, the application, when it first came in, had 5 very small residential units in the new extension that's proposed at roof level. Most of the report from the within the officer report does refer to consultees making reference to 5 residential units. Through the course of the application, it was identified that 5 residential units was too many to accommodate sort of a larger unit on the upper floor, as well as a suitable mix of accommodation. So the application was revised partway through to reduce the number of units to 4 residential units. We now have a 2-bedroom apartment, as well as 1 bedroom and the 2 studios that you can see in the corner. It's felt that this proposal now delivers a better mix, which is more akin to the planning policy requirements for a suitable mix of accommodation. These are the proposed front and side elevations. So you'll see that the proposed roof form is also a pitched roof with dormer windows installed. So we have taken account of where apartments might have smaller floor areas due to them not having the full head height. So that has been taken into account in assessing the scheme against the proposed floor space. The application design has taken into account the fact that it would be better reflected as an extension and less noticeable if it was an extension that reflected the existing design. As a standalone building, it doesn't really respect its neighbours or doesn't have a context which is similar to any of its neighbours, so building upwards in the same design is likely to have very limited impact in the street scene. And again, the proposed rear and side elevations, where we've also managed to secure some obscure glazing where there is a potential for perception of overlooking to adjoining residential neighbours. This is the existing phrase court building, so I think many of us will know it as we travel up and down County Mill Road, and this is the vehicular access point and the car parking. Now, the prior approval application did secure monies towards surface water drainage improvements that will provide for improvements where there are current drainage problems and some surface water flooding which occurs around this area here. Accordingly, the application has been recommended for approval subject to conditions. I will pass back to Councillor Lavery. Can I also, sorry, Councillor Lavery, can I also do a verbal update that the number of electric vehicle charging points has been mistakenly quoted under condition number 5, part 2D as 4%. So that needs to be amended prior to the final decision notice going out. So I apologise for the error. I will stop sharing the presentation.
It should say 4, shouldn't it, Mandip?
Yes, sorry about that.
No percentages. Right, okay. So we're effectively looking, before we get too worried about this one at the 4 units because the rest of it is prior development. So just bear that in mind. Councillor Higgins, Councillor Duncan, then Councillor Tuckwell. Councillor Higgins.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, well, it is what it is. We went through this last time, so I'll go with officer's recommendation on this one.
Okay, Councillor Duncan.
Yes, I'm broadly happy with it, but I do realise that the house just to the north of it is to the north. So this additional increase in the roof height, is that going to further overshadow that residential property to the north and its gardens, or is it set back because of the car parking area sufficiently that it won't affect the amenity?
Mandip, please.
As Councillor Duncan noted, I think it's sufficiently set back in terms of the relationship to the property to the north.
Okay.
I'm happy then to second it. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Tuckwell, you also indicated.
Yeah, I think the points have been raised. I think the only point I had is it was raised last time. I think this is the 3rd time this application has been back, and yeah, our hands are tied on a lot of it. So yeah, I've got nothing further to add. It's already been proposed and seconded.
Thank you very much. Nobody else is indicating, so I would again move to the vote. Councillor Tuckwell.
For, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Duncan seconded. Councillor Hagger.
For, Chair.
Councillor Higgins proposed. Councillor Melvin.
Yes, I'm for, Chairman.
Councillor Morgan.
For, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Morse.
For, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Sansapuri. Councillor Sansapuri, can you
put a thumb up?
I've got a thumbs up from Councillor Sansapuri.
Yes, there's a thumbs up.
We'll take that tonight. That's all councillors voting in favour. Can you confirm, Luke, that one's approved?
I can confirm that, yes.
Okay, I now move to item 13, which is 1 and 2, the Merriman's Harlington Road. Mandate, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Item 13 is numbers 1 and 2, Merriman's and Harlington Road. This is the application site outlined in red. The application site is located within the Greenbelt, and it's directly adjacent to the Rural Activities Garden Centre, which many of us may know, as well as Moorcroft School, located to the north of the site. So on this plan, Moorcroft is shown to the north in the dark brown colour, which is a listed building. The application itself proposes, or I'll take you through the existing floor plans. So it's currently accommodated as 2 residential units. The application proposes alterations and extensions to convert these existing houses into a group home for 6 people with learning difficulties. The proposals will provide a total of 6 bedrooms and communal facilities to provide 24 hours a day staff support to encourage the residents to live independently within a secure environment. The proposals are also expected to generate 2 full-time employment positions for support staff. I'll take you through these plans, which indicate that there is a single-storey extension proposed to the rear and a 2-storey extension proposed to the left-hand side. Now, there is an addendum on this item because whilst we did impose a landscaping condition, these plans, along with the associated statement that has been approved or recommended for approval under the conditions, provide sufficient details that we don't need to see the application come back to us for conditions for landscaping. So we're conditioning that the landscaping is implemented as set out on these plans. These are the proposed floor plans for the development. So there is a small teaching space, sensory space and communal living. And again, you can see the 6-home development shown on the first floor plan. These are the existing and the proposed elevations. So in essence, they show very limited impacts in terms of encroachment, and the design mirrors that of the existing building. These are the existing and proposed rear and rear elevations. Apologies on the side elevation, which also has a few more. Whilst there are additional doors and windows inserted into this building, they will face onto the Rural Activities Garden Centre as opposed to any other residential properties. There are 4 car parking spaces allocated to the 2 units. And following the extensions, the rear amenity space for the group home would provide 70 square metres of space. take you through some photographs. So this is the existing property, access from the front. Apologies for the quality, but you can see here, this is the location of the two-storey side extension. And this is the existing property itself. Not in a great state of repair, so will be put to better use. The application has been recommended for approval. I will stop sharing the presentation and pass back to Councillor Lavery.
Thank you very much. What looks like a good proposal to improve an existing borough facility. Councillor Morgan, Councillor Melvin, please, and then Councillor Duncan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's good to see something like this, providing extra facilities for those that require sheltered accommodation, and to bring a property back into use again. So I'm in favour of the officer's recommendations.
Right, Councillor Melvin.
Councillor Morgan has just about said everything I was going to say, so I'm just happy to go ahead and second this the proposal.
I'll hold those, and then I've got Councillor Duncan and Hagger. So Councillor Duncan first, because I saw her first, then Councillor Hagger.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just echo what others have said. If it hasn't actually been proposed, I will propose
Councillor
it.
Morgan effectively proposed it, so I
good. Okay, happy with it. Thank you.
Councillor Hagger.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Great that this is going through. I've just got one question. It might be a bit obvious, but if you could just ask if there's a recommendation in this. I've just noticed on the informatives about wheelchair users, and advice from the council's accessibility officer is strongly recommended. So I'm taking from that that currently there is no access for wheelchair users. Now, are we going to put something in there in the application that states that they should? Because I think there should be.
Mandy, would you like to confirm what the current position is?
The current position is that there is an informative on page 303 that says that should it be the case that wheelchair users could be offered a place, an opportunity should be taken to install an enclosed platform lift. So that would require some internal reconfiguration within the unit, but it doesn't often take a lot of space, and there is a lot of communal space at ground floor level to accommodate an enclosed platform lift.
That cover the point, Councillor Hagger?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think what I'm saying is if they build it and it's not in there, and then a wheelchair access user has the place, they've then got to put it in. Is that right? In simple terms.
I think that is what Mandy
said. We can't make them put it in beforehand. That's not possible.
One of the things I'd say is that we'd hope that the team would know who was possibly going into the development and could do the works should it be required prior to anyone moving in, but I can't guarantee that, no.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, I see no other hands. We are proposed and seconded. I'll start with Councillor Tuckwell.
4.
Councillor Duncan.
4.
Councillor Hagger.
4.
Councillor Higgins.
4.
Councillor Melvin seconded. Councillor Morgan proposed. Councillor Morth.
4, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Sansapuri. Can you thumbs up if you can hear me? Luke, I think we've lost him again.
The feed may have frozen again, I'm afraid, Chairman.
It looks frozen to my screen.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Sansapuri is unable to vote, but I've 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 7 in favour, none against, so that one's approved. Do you agree, Luke?
I agree, yes.
Final item of the night, item 14, is land to the east of Broadmead Road and South Acorn Way in Norfolk, and it's another school proposal. Mandy.
Thank you, Councillor Lavery. I take you through the application. The application site is the area outlined in red on the junction of Broadmead Road and Ballinger Road. The next screen identifies that the entirety of the application site is located within the green belt. The application proposes the erection of a new special educational needs school together with associated landscaping, play areas and boundary treatments. To take you through the plans, the slightly strangely shaded pink is the proposed school building, the area fronting onto Broadmead Road, which comprise the staff and pupil drop-off area, and the area around the most southern part of the site, which flanks onto the existing greenbelt and publicly accessible space, would form the school field. This is the general arrangement for the ground floor plan, and then the roof plan. These are the elevations, and I think you will be able to see that there is an element of green roof proposed on the buildings, which back onto the southern elevation towards the green belt and the open public space. These are some context elevations. The application site is predominantly single story. There are some elements of additional space at upper floor level, but in order to provide the special educational needs required, in order to facilitate them, primarily the building is located on ground floor level. Now, the majority of pupils at the special educational needs school, it has been identified, do come in via the school minibus. And for that reason, whilst there is staff parking, there are a number of staff minibus placements in order to offload children during pick-up and drop-off times and take them into the school securely. These are rendered or coloured elevations, and then we have some 3D study drawings submitted by the applicants. Again, the application site is located in a highly residential area. It is also on the boundary with the London Borough of Ealing. However, the need for the school is significantly great. The council's education services team have stated that they fully support and are on board with the team because there is a need to put students into the school within the south of the borough. There are existing facilities in the north which provide special educational needs and schools, whereas in the south that's more limited, and so this is one of the few sites that's been identified. Now, the application site is within the green belt, as I previously mentioned. The report does go into a lot of detail about the historic information about the site. It was a former sports centre. It was supposed to have been delivered as a sports facility to cater for the Taylor Woodrow development, which you can see to the north of the site. The application never came forward, and the site has effectively remained vacant and redundant for a considerable amount of time. Now, part of the application does also propose to build on a small area of public open space, which is predominantly here. And having taken all of that into account, we did ask the applicants to give us a significant amount of information and do a significantly wide search of alternative sites that they could build on to facilitate this school within the borough without having to build on the green belt. Now, the applicants went through quite an extensive search of the borough, predominantly within the southern part, and there were no alternative sites identified. So there are very special circumstances to demonstrate that whilst building on the greenbelt is regrettable, there is a significant need for this school and there are no alternative sites. And the loss of the open space is also regrettable. There have been considerable moves made in order to provide a building which is green at the ends of its built form, and then the predominant open space for the school is located backing onto the existing public open space in order to allow as much greenery to be retained, and the main built form is located closer to Ballinger Way and Broadmead Road. There has been a detailed transport assessment undertaken, and the council's highways engineers conclude that the proposed development would be acceptable in terms of traffic impacts, pedestrian and highway safety concerns. The school is also well separated from the surrounding residential properties, and that's these properties here and those along this side of Broadmead Road, and it's not considered that there will be any detrimental impact in terms of amenity. The development has been designed to fully accord with all requirements relating to accessible design, sustainable design, flood risk, and the needs for special educational needs. The application is recommended for approval, subject to referral to the GLA as well as the Secretary of State, because the development is located in the Greenbelt. I will take you through to show you some photographs. So these photographs show the existing Taylor Woodrow development to the right, And then these are the publicly accessible open space. There are some photos a little later on. This is the application site itself, which is hoarded off and has been hoarded off for some time. And some later photographs do show the site in quite a poor state of repair. Tipping has obviously taken its due course on the site. I will pass back to Councillor Lavery. Again, the application is recommended for approval, subject to conditions and the legal agreement.
And there is an addendum on this item which does tidy conditions up a little bit. Councillor Higgins, I've already seen. Councillor Tuckwell, followed by Councillor Duncan. Right, Councillor Higgins, you can start off, then Councillor Morse. We've got 4 speakers.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Absolutely delighted about this one. I think this is absolutely perfect. Like the design, well needed in our borough. And I will go with officer's recommendation and propose. Thank you.
So I've lost my thought train there. Councillor Duncan, I know you indicated.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, there's a very, very great need for this facility, as I think we all know. So I'm very pleased to see that. It's sad that we do have to have these developments in the green belt, but I accept that this is now part of the development plan we have, that we're either having to try and find millions of pounds to buy a site for a school in the developed area, and it's just put the purchase of such land really out of our reach. So we're lucky that we do have open space. This is a site that does need action taking on it, and the fact that it was due to be a sports facility initially means that some development was proposed there. So I think that those factors really make it much more acceptable, and I'm happy to second. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tuckwell, did I see you indicate?
I can't add anything that's been already said. Good scheme, happy to support it.
Okay, Councillor Morse.
Obviously, this is greatly needed, and I strongly support it. And I will point out that by putting it in this location, we're not actually destroying the function of the green belt, and I believe it's a quite an acceptable decision to make, and it does meet the high exception needs, and so I think it's totally acceptable. We can vote for this.
Good. Nobody else is indicating. Right. In which case, I shall move to the vote. So we're voting for officers' recommendations to approve. Councillor Tuckwell.
For, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Duncan seconded. Councillor Hagger.
For, Chair.
Councillor Higgins proposed. Councillor Melvin.
Yes, for, Chairman.
Councillor Morgan.
For, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Morse.
For, Mr. Chairman.
Right, Councillor Sansapori. Can you hear me? Can you indicate? No, I think he's frozen. Luke, am I right?
It does still look like the feed is frozen, I'm afraid.
Okay,
yeah.
So we've got 7 in favour, and we can't get hold of Councillor Sansapori. On that basis, do you agree with me, Luke? That one is approved.
I agree. That one's approved.
That concludes our meeting tonight. Thank you all for your time and concentration. I know it's been a slightly difficult evening with some technical issues at various points, but my thanks to you all and good night.
If everyone could just remain just on mute for a moment, I'll stop the stream.